Hi there. Before we start the video, you're going to notice throughout the video, after I'm done reading the event where Goering takes power, uh, the video will turn into a time lapse, and that's mainly because I got hit with like 14 copyright infringement related things. So I've decided that I don't want to let a 4.5 hour stream go to waste. So we'll have the beginning will just be me talking, like the opening, and then it'll just move into like a Hoi 4 time lapse. So hopefully you enjoy. Sorry about that. YouTube copyright can be rather aggressive and annoying. But my fault for thinking that slowed and reverb versions of heavily copyrighted music would actually get past the system. So that's on me. We won't be doing that anymore. So enjoy the video. Thanks. To start a Kaiserredux playthrough as Hermann Goering, and it should be interesting. Kind of tough, I'm not gonna lie. At least I tried it earlier today and ended up getting my rear end pounded in by the communists, so we'll try not to have that happen again today. I've got something a bit new. I've got a little World War II footage background behind me. I'm going to turn the camera on this time. I don't normally have a camera, but this time is different. I'm feeling a little different. I have the wackiest air design. Okay, here we go. Here, the big event. Finally. Holy shit. Okay. Alright. Von Schleicher has decided. Okay. A murderer enters through the window, or someone is burglarizing the Chancellor's home. His guards are already dead. He is armed with but a pistol, but the assailants are certainly armed too. Then there was Elizabeth, his wife, who was alone in the bedroom, who could only guess what was going on. The current situation, Kurt had only two options. Either he tries to defeat the murderer himself with his pistol, and hopes that the police patrol nearby would notice the shots, which could quickly be fatal if he were hit, or he tries to get into the back garden with Elizabeth through the bedroom window in order to escape. But that carries the risk that more murderers are waiting for them there. How should Kurt decide? Well, since we want Hermann Goering to take over, Kurt is going to be a hero and face the murderers. The fight at the front door. After carefully considering his limited options, Kurt decided to face the intruders in battle, because a German officer doesn't flee like a coward. He knew, however, that if he failed, not only would he probably lose his life, these bastards would also murder his beloved Elizabeth. He couldn't fall now, with so much at stake. He looked for a protected position with a clear line of fire on the front door and waited for the inevitable. Then, the intruders finally cracked the door and quietly entered the house. There were 5 men, each armed with a pistol. They were completely ignorant that Kurt had long since targeted them with his own pistol. When 2 of them turned their backs on Kurt to go up the stairs, he took the opportunity and fired. He hit both of them and they fell backwards down the stairs. The other 3 were completely taken by surprise and initially panicked, which gave Kurt the opportunity to shoot another intruder. Shortly after, the 2 other regrouped and fired in his direction. A merciless firefight broke out in the house, and Kurt had a hard time keeping the 2 shooters at bay at the same time. But then he managed to take out another one. After another nerve-wracking minute, Kurt finally managed to get a free line of fire, but his opponent had him in his sights as well. Then 2 shots were fired. One of the 2 assailants were hit, and the other one who was hit was Kurt. And his last words were, "Forgive me, Elizabeth." Murdered. In his bathrobe. Shortly before 3 p.m., the Vizekanzler Hermann von Goering was on the way to an emergency session of the Reichstag, where he had to inform the Reichstag and citizens of the Reich about the tragic death of Reichskanzler Kurt von Schleicher. When he entered the Reichstag, he saw that the plenary hall and the grandstand were both occupied to the last seat, and that everyone was talking excitedly. Everyone awaited the election of the new Reichskanzler and the explanation of the circumstances surrounding the death of Kurt von Schleicher. After a short address by the Reichstag's President, who emphasized the seriousness of the situation, a vote was taken on the appointment of a new Reichskanzler, which von Goering won almost unanimously against the SPD candidate, thanks to the support of his party. The Reichstag's president gave von Goering the floor. He went to the lectern. The whole hall became quiet, and all eyes were only on him. He had waited and worked towards this moment for so long, and now it was finally time to shine. Now, Reichstag's president and honorable members of the Reichstag, today I have the sad duty to inform you and the citizens of the Reich about circumstances that led to the murder of Kurt von Schleicher. First, the only good news is the police and Secret Service investigators managed to arrest one of the 7 murderers alive. The others were shot trying to escape. The arrested killer has been interrogated, and he already confessed to the heinous act. The intruders were members of various socialist and syndicalist groups who were verifiably provided with the funds and information by agents of the Commune of France in order to carry out the assassination attempt on Herr Schleicher. To the best of our knowledge, the situation played out as follows. This morning around 2 a.m., the assassins forcibly gained access to the Reichskanzler's property, first killing his 2 bodyguards, then breaking into the house. Meanwhile, he and his wife lay asleep in their bed, unsuspecting what was happening out there. It was only when the murderers were standing in front of the bedroom that he apparently woke up because of the step noises. He was found in front of his bed with his pistol in hand. His wife Elizabeth was shot in the bed when the police found her. She didn't even have a chance to fight back. Herr Schleicher was able to take out one of the murderers who was laying dead in front of the bedroom. Shocked murmurs began to be heard throughout the chamber. But this incident, my dear colleagues, proves once again that these syndicalist scum have no honor or decency, and that we have to eliminate them to the last. To shoot a man in his defenseless wife in their bed, only godless creatures could do something like that. Therefore, as the new Reichskanzler, I hereby apply the Enabling Act to be passed immediately. This law envisaged a massive restriction on civil rights and the postponement of the next election indefinitely in order to be able to take action against the syndicalist threat. Protests came from the SPD and other opposition parties as they had not received such a draft and that they would never agree to such an outrageous law. But their protest was drowned in the angry shouts from the audience, which were only half-heartedly stopped by the president of the Reichstag. The subsequent vote took place as expected. The opposition parties abstained, the ruling party voted unanimously for the Enabling Act, and it was passed. Cheers broke out on the grandstand, and among the DVLP, MPs were happily shouting Goering's name, who thanked the people for their support. Only the opposition sat pale and petrified in their seats. No one could believe what had just happened here. One could hear an SPD MP saying to the Zentrum MP next to him, "This is how liberty dies," with a thunderous applause. Deutschland über alles, long live the Reichskanzler Hermann von Goering. That's it. Okay.